Welcome back. I am your host, Jessie Towns, and this is the Keeping Shit Real podcast, a podcast for parents to neurodivergent kids. Welcome back. This is episode 3 of season 2. How is everybody doing? Can I just say, if you live in the United Kingdom, this week has been an absolute dreamboat for weather, hasn't it? It's absolutely insane. And I just can't get over how nice the weather's been. I'm loving my life. But this week, I just wanted to talk about some of the mad stuff that's kind of been happening. And I don't know where you've been living, if you are under a rock, I don't know where you are, but the nervous disposition that I felt after watching the Louis Theroux Manosphere documentary that has currently gone onto Netflix. Now, you know me by now, guys. I hope that I've got an 8-year-old son. He's got PDA and he obviously has a drive for autonomy, and he does suffer from resistance of, being in survival mode of when we're asking him to do things. That's just how his brain is working. But then I watched the Louis Theroux documentary and it kind of gave me, I'm not going to lie, it kind of gave me the fucking fear. I just thought, fuck, what is going on? What is going to happen in years to come? Do you know what I mean? And I kind of felt like that whole, I think it's always that shoulda, woulda, coulda aspect, isn't it? But I kind of felt that toxic masculinity could kind of fit quite well with a child that has PDA. So for those of you that haven't watched it, we obviously all know who Louis Theroux is. He's an amazing journalist, does some amazing documentaries. But this is more, he's done this documentary really added on the back of, as we've all seen, I'm sure we've all seen Adolescence last year, the Stephen Graham short drama with that lovely young lad called Owen. God, I can't remember his name, but you know the one I'm talking about. And it obviously was, when I watched Adolescence, I couldn't speak for a good hour. I was literally devastated. I just couldn't believe it. So I think it shocked so many people about red pill, blue pill, toxic masculinity that Louis Theroux has obviously decided to roll with this documentary. There are some very famous males in the manosphere, but if you haven't seen it, the manosphere really just sells itself as, if you don't know what the manosphere is, if you've not seen Adolescence and you've not seen the Louis Theroux documentary, the manosphere basically sells itself on self-improvement. It's like fitness, confidence, like basic masculinity. But the ideology underneath it is very, very sick and it's very, very dark. It's very misogynistic. But the whole point is, the whole ethos of the manosphere is that it targets insecure young men by offering them like a script, like a pathway, so to speak, for like social success. It's like they found their like tribe. And I don't want to say tribe because I've got my own tribe of PDA parents in the PDA parent circle, but it's like a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose. So for me, I think I felt quite nervous about it because, I do have an autistic son and he's a boy. But it made me really, really think about fucking hell, like our children are really, really vulnerable. We obviously know that the Adolescence Netflix drama brought a lot more. It brought it into the sort of our living rooms, and it was a drama. But the Louis Theroux documentary was just so much darker because they followed around like these YouTubers that are in the manosphere. But for me as a parent, I think the bit that made my stomach drop was just how there was a few things that really made my stomach turn. I think one of them was right at the end, when his mum turned. It's HS TikTok. I'm not going to give you their full names because they're just not worth the fucking airwaves to to go googling them or looking at them on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But one of them is called HS TikTok. Now I just thought, what a fucking idiot to start with. But when his mum came along, this kid from the manosphere went to a privately educated school. Yeah, his dad was a famous ex-England rugby player. And he had quite an affluent life, but there's obviously daddy issues going on here, because there was one clip of when he went to go meet his dad, and his dad had not really had anything to do with him his entire life. So I always find that there is a bit of a root sometimes, not all the time. We know from the Netflix drama, the Adolescence one, that there was actually he'd had a very good life, a very good upbringing, came from a family, but it doesn't take long if your child is remotely vulnerable to be able to get caught into this misogynistic manosphere circle. So Before we could go making any big connections, like what is PDA? Like how does, and a lot of you may not even know what PDA is. It basically stands for pathological demand avoidance, but now we prefer to call it persistent drive for autonomy. It does sit within the autism spectrum or the ADHD spectrum, and it does look very, very different to any other sort of neurodiversity. PDA kids will always appear quite social normally. They're on the surface, but any demand, something enjoyable, something that they even love doing, can trigger a real serious threat response. I don't believe it's really driven by anxiety. It's driven by loss of autonomy, and that creates that sense that having that no sense of safety gives fear. There is a bit of anxiety there, I suppose, but if a child is, when their autonomy feels threatened, their nervous system treats it like danger. Well, does that danger interpret anxiety? You can argue that it can, but I'm starting to feel that it's not. And it's not defiance. This is what it's not. And it's not bad parenting. It's a different way of just experiencing the world and the threat that we see. So, for me, the whole Manosphere sort of agenda and topic. So, PDA for us looks in our houses, we spend my children, they do spend time online. I've got an elder son who's 17 and he's very aware of toxic masculinity and just thinks that they're all dickheads, thank God. But the heart of the episode is that the connection that nobody was really, really talking about, that I kind of felt like it overlapped with if you've got a child with PDA. So the Manosphere is not accidentally, how am I trying to get this? It's not appealing to PDA brains, but it's built on exactly, I feel, what PDA boys are probably sort of like craving for. And the thing is, it kind of sells the autonomy. So one thing that PDA kids desperately need is autonomy. And the Manosphere, what's the word? I can't get my words out. The whole emphasis on the Manosphere is that nobody controls you and that you make your own rules and that you answer to nobody. Do you know what I mean? And that for me I was like, fucking hell, this is really worrying, because for a PDAer, for a boy who spent years being managed, corrected and pathologized, that message hits quite differently. And I just felt it also completely, that the Manosphere, it validates a massive distrust in like the entire system. And we obviously know that kids with PDA, they clash with schools, they clash with authority, there's rigid systems. By young teens, they may have been excluded from school, disciplined, told that they are the problem because people aren't aware of what PDA is. And then again, that links into the Manosphere. The Manosphere is like, you were right, you got to distrust the rules, the system's shit, the system can't be trusted. And it is designed, the whole Manosphere is designed to keep you down. And it's not recruitment. It's making these young boys, these young teenagers feel like they've got an element of relief. And I just thought, fucking hell, like this could be really dodgy territory with boys that are PDA. And I think PDA and anxiety, they can go hand in hand. I don't agree overly, but the Manosphere gives quite a rigid hierarchy. Like, it's very clear rules, simple answers. It offers certainty in a world that does feel quite chaotic, probably to a young teenage boy. And for any brain that struggles, it can be incredibly, attractive, seductive. Being able to have that autonomy by the way in which they are accepted in a world that feels way less chaotic. And some of the strategies that I thought that we are told to use when we're talking about managing PDA is a compliance system, is connecting. But all this stuff that we're told we're not to use is, compliance, rewards, punishment and demands. But they may be, I just felt that there was an element, I just thought, do a teenage boy, they get to the adolescence and they're already convinced that the world is really hostile because they've been, people haven't dealt with them, neuroaffirmingly, and they are feeling that, they've had barked at them their entire sort of secondary education, like about compliance and rewards, punishments and demands, that by the time they get to these young adolescent ages, that they're actually quite hostile already, and they're they want to rebel back because nobody's given a shit about them. And then the algorithm, i.e. TikTok, whatever, then hands them these fucking lunatics that, on this toxic masculinity flex, and they just end up feeling accepted by it. I know you're probably thinking, fucking hell, Jessie, he's only 8 though. And I was thinking, I know he's only 8, but I couldn't stop thinking about it, thinking, any parent who thinks they've got time with their kids, you haven't. Because I have got a 17-year-old, I've got a 17-year-old neurotypical son. I tell you what, it goes through a blink of an eye. You know, the content regarding the manosphere and toxic masculinity, it is already hitting primary schools. Do you know what I mean? It could be through your older brother and sister, friends, gaming, YouTube. If we are not, being quite very careful of what we are letting our kids play on, what we're letting them watch, what we're restricting, it is getting to 8-year-old kids, even younger. And the thing is, the values that we've got, and the story of any child is about them and how they are being sort of formed right now. And it's about these values when they're young at this age, the difference between right and wrong. And the reality is, you can't just think, oh, they're only 8 and be ignorant to it, because the world is a scary place. When I was young, nothing ever like that would have ever have happened, because it's one of those that you always think, oh, it's never going to happen to me, but you've got to be prepared. It might happen. The thing is, the algorithm, the internet, it just doesn't wait for anybody. They don't give a fucking shit how old your kids are. But the reality is, like, what can you actually do? And it got me thinking, like, how can I protect my kids? What can I do? I've got 3 boys. My eldest son is very, very, very switched on. And he will do he's been, I think once he was in year 11, his last year of secondary school, when Adolescence was first aired, and then they ended up watching it at school. But he knew, I was saying to him, it was like really, really kind of like the first, and I'd heard of it a little bit, but I kind of, when I was questioning about it, he knew all about it, and I was a little bit shocked. I felt a little bit stupid that I had never had this conversation with him before. But hey, that it is what it is. But I think we need to have real, honest conversations. And there are no easy fixes to this. You can't ban things from people. If you can't tell a kid with PDA they cannot do something, because it almost guarantees, when you tell your kids they can't, absolutely categorically cannot do something, fucking hell, they're going to go and do it. Of course they are. And it's about having these open and honest conversations with our kids, because I'm going to be, I am really worried about about Maxie and his vulnerability, because he's PDA and he's autistic, and I don't want him feeling like he's gone through life absolutely hating life and having to fight through a system. But I don't know, what do you feel? I think it's these conversations that we really, really do need to have. But I think it's also about giving our kids like the real choices, giving them power in life now, so that they know. The way I felt the Manosphere documentary was, it was like these kids, these young boys, they're not kids, they are kids, they're in their fucking 20s, they're still, do you know what I mean? But they think they're the mandem. I felt that there was something missing in their life, and a lot of them, and a lot of them didn't have father figures. They've been brought up by their mums, single parent families, and they got very misogynistic views to life and what was going on. And I just think, even if you are a single parent, we can still have these open and honest and transparent conversations with our kids, because we can. Everybody knows who that fucking wanker Andrew Tate is. Do you know what I mean? But it's, in terms of like kids with PDA, it's, that driving for autonomy, it's not a flaw. And it's not to be corrected. We need to work with them, and we know that. And it is a core part of who my kid is that he has got PDA. But the more it's treated as a problem, the more he's going to try and seek it out of people who will find it as a strength. And you look at people like Andrew Tate, who are just, God knows, where is he now? Is he in jail somewhere? I don't know. But I fucking hope I never see him again. But again, it's about focusing on connection and overcorrection. And we know that when lowering demands and building trust slowly, there is like a radical acceptance of what our kids can actually manage right now. But the same approach also works when you talk to them about the world and about your kids, and about what is important and what isn't okay, and how young boys should treat women. Because the Manosphere documentary, it was quite I mean, there was parts of it that made me absolutely laugh out loud because it was so cringy. You know, the thing is with the Manosphere flex, they all want this massive ideology of, you know, they want women to take care of them. They want to have this happy thing, but at the same time, they also are treating them and talking to them like absolute dog shit. So it was all very, very double standard. And I kind of couldn't get my head around that. And it was one of those that I just thought, wow. But it's, when you've got your own child and they're vulnerable, they don't even have to be neurodivergent. Do you know what I mean? Like, kids are vulnerable, and we know kids have got smartphones. They can click on anything at the click of a button. And I don't want to be raising a statistic. Do you know what I mean? I'm raising my own kid. And I just felt that the documentaries kind of really freaked me out, because I can see exactly how easy these kids can get very quickly influenced and go down these rabbit holes of being misogynistic and hating on the world. And it's obviously not who my kid is now, and he won't be that child, but it is our responsibility to make sure that we are not being difficult. You know, we're having open, honest conversations, and we're not ignoring the fact that, you know, the internet is a wild place now. And one of the other things is, when you look at a kind of a therapeutic approach, I suppose, to PDA, and it is about focusing on that radical acceptance of what they are capable of. And never underestimate a child with PDA, because we know that they are very, very intelligent. They're very quick to pick things up, and they are just on the ball all the time. And if there is any air of, you know, forcing or not understanding or having that radical acceptance of what PDA looks like, I just felt like having a child with PDA, like this, the whole toxic masculinity thing could have gone really, really, I can see how it could really, really be attractive to a teenage PDAer. And that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to say, like, listen, our kids have got PDA, they're all going to fucking turn into Andrew Tate. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, I feel that specifically the toxic masculinity, could be quite easy, because you know, some of our children go to specialist schools. I've just been to my son's specialist school today, and it's an all boys school, so I can kind of see, you know, not every child comes from a really loving and upbringing and home life. And I don't know, maybe I'm just stressing myself out, I don't know, but I did think, wow, it is quite insane. And, you know, our jobs are stressful enough as parents, but I just always wanted to let my kids know that I am their safe person. And if they're ever worried about absolutely anything, that they've always got me. And it doesn't matter if they've done something stupid, I'd rather them tell me instead of the old Bill knocking at the door. But I'm not joking. Like, these lads on this Manosphere, they are making so much money. And it seems to be, I think Louis invested, 500 quid into I think it was crypto. Was it crypto? I'm pretty sure it's crypto. Listen, I'm 46. I don't get crypto. That is way off my radar. I just don't get crypto whatsoever. I don't really know what it means. Well, I know what it is, but I don't know how you trade it and how you get any money back. But I kind of felt that a lot of it was bullshit. So I think they all started straight away they all started selling online fitness courses. And then there was one really savage bit where they were just filming. They kicked off and started basically beating a random geezer up on the side of the street, and like filming it, because everything is live streamed. People can comment, and then they can aggravate and they can antagonize the situation and be like, yeah, punch him in the head, yeah, pull her bikini off, let's see her tits. I mean, it was really, really insane. And I just thought, mate, I don't think you get girls doing this sort of shit. Do you know what? But again, there will be the equivalent in terms of girls. I mean, for girls, it's probably the nastier side of girls, that toxic behaviour of gaslighting. I mean, is there an opposite of the manosphere? I don't know. For the female sphere, I don't know. But it's just one of those that is quite concerning, that it's really, really on the up as well. So that's where I am. I don't know. Let me know what you thought to it. If you've seen it, I'm really interested to know your your take on it of a parent to a neurodivergent child. So, what else are we going to cover today? So listen, do you know what? I wanted to say thank you very much for everybody just always are so supportive. I'm just so happy with the community that I've got and that I've built and that you have become a part of. It's made me a much better parent. I hope I've helped people along the way. Even I do try my hardest to reply to every single DM on my Instagram. And I do apologise if you are listening to this and I haven't replied to you, can you just send me another DM? Because I reply to everything as soon as possibly as I can. But I know some days I'm really shit. The PDA Parent Circle is open for joining, £17 a month. It is absolutely life-changing. You could stay for a month, use all of the resources, watch all of the live sessions. We've got everything from explosive behaviour to declarative language to siblings to holidays. And then you can cancel it. Or you could stay for 6 weeks, 6 months, a year, stay in the group chat. I mean, our group chat is absolutely popping off. I cannot tell you how rewarding it is knowing that, feeling validated and seen when you've got a kid who's got PDA, and that, some days, let's be honest, it can be a fucking car crash. I mean, I've had a pretty good run of it for a week, but I've not had too many mental situations, I'm not going to lie. But I am also very aware that now I've just said that out loud, it's probably going to be mental, and there's probably going to be a couple of things, but it's one of those where I just love the PDA parent tribe. I mean, they're just such a bunch of G's. Come and join us. We are an absolute hoot. We are living our best life, moaning, whinging, laughing, crying, you name it, we do it. And it's a fabulous bunch of people. It's £17. I'll put the link in the show notes. And somebody did ask me last week about the Nesty. The Nesty is a compression pod, also an absolutely fantastic piece of, I wasn't going to say equipment, regulatory tools. I cannot tell you how amazing it is. It's a compression sock. I've got a code, Jessie10, give you 10% off. The boys at Nesty have worked so hard on it. The material is so beautiful, and it is a go-to for regulation. I'm not even joking. It's Friday. I'm going to love you and leave you. Take care. Thanks for listening, and I love you. Bye.